Аз съм Мария Черешева от Асоциацията на европейските журналисти и много се радвам, че тази среща най-накрая се състои. Тя всъщност е част от поредица и от срещи в рамките на проекта ни "Наука и журналистика заедно срещу инфодемията", който изпълняваме с нашите партньори от Тракийския университет, Асоциацията за кариерно развитие в Пловдив, Норсенсус Медиафорум и Центъра по растителни биотехнологии в Пловдив. Доста интересно обединение. За първи път няколко срещи, които вече направихме в страната между учени и журналисти. Бяхме в Пловдив, бяхме в Стара Загора и сме много обнадеждени от тези дискусии, от ангажираността и на журналистите и репортерите, и на представителите на различни специалности в научния сектор, от история през ветеринарна медицина и педагогика, литература. Абсолютно всякакви хора се включиха, което много ни радва. Няма да ви занимавам повече с мене, с себе си или с асоциацията, но само ще кажа няколко думи за Ведат. Той е част от екипа на норвежката медийна организация Norsensus Mediaforum, медиен изследовател. Не очаквайте днес той да ви говори за това как го правят в Норвегия и как трябва да подходим ние към проблемите с поднасянето на факти и постистината. Напротив, аз имам привилегията да съм чувала това, което Ведат има да ни сподели. По-скоро ще погледнем наистина по-надълбоко в това защо и как възприемаме фактите и съответно как бихме могли да ги поднасяме, какви подходи можем да възприемем ние като журналисти, като хора, на които им пука, така че да влияем по някакъв по-ефективен начин на аудиторията. Няколко технически детайла. Молбата ми е да, ако е възможно, да държите микрофоните си изключени, докато Ведат говори. Можете да вдигате въпроси с вдигане на ръка. Групата е по-малко, отколкото очаквахме. Както казах, спря да вали. Нормално е, може би, някои от заявилите участие да са предпочели да прекарат време навън, тъй че мисля, че можем най-спокойно да си говорим и не само в чата. Можете да пишете в чата чрез вдигане на ръка и да задавате въпроси. Последно, тъй като Ведат ще говори на английски, срещата има предвиден превод. Долу в дясно на тулбара на Zoom можете да видите глобусчето с Interpretation, да изберете български език и да слушате превод в ефир. Това е всичко от мен. Благодаря ви за интереса, приятно и смислено слушане и говорене и давам думата на Ведат. Ведат, it's you now.
Sorry, I just realized now. All right, sorry. Thank you so much, Maria, for a very nice introduction. First of all, thank you very much, everyone, just being here. As I heard from Maria, that's a nice better there, and despite the good better, instead of enjoying the good better, you just join here. So I hope you'll not resent in the end of the meeting, and hope we can just have some inspiration from each other today. So still, it's a quite big group. So what we're gonna do today is more share based on our experience and also some research. Share my insight about fact communication, and I just learned also. It's quite a diverse group some of you are journalists, some of you are working with NGOs and also different organizations and different and coming from very diverse backgrounds. So it's quite exciting, and I'm sure that you will have things to share and contribute. So I'll try not to just bore you with too much talking, but as it is a lecture in the end, and it's a big group, I'll be talking, but time to time I'll give you the floor. But in the end, I'll just try to keep my part as short as possible. And in the end, we will have a question and answer session. There you can ask your own questions or share your opinions and insights there. All right, then let me just share my screen first. All right. Yes. You can see it? Right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Actually, when we started this very exciting project, it was a very natural match for us, very relevant area, because we often, as an organization, work in the field of media literacy. And in the last 10 years, I have been also involved in these media literacy initiatives by Norsensus Mediaforum, both in Norway and also in the countries which we are collaborating, in 19 European countries. And one thing which I just so it's from the very beginning, you know, it's a very obvious field when we just talk about media literacy, fact checking and science communication, and just how to communicate the factual information and deal with misinformation and disinformation issues in society, and how to increase competences. And of course, we have also followed similar paths, following the fact-checking initiatives all over the world, and we have initiated many projects to tackle and increase the competences among different groups of people. But in the end, after so many years of working both this fact-checking, media literacy, and also at the same time storytelling, I personally have come to an interesting combination and observations about the real nature of fact-checking and science communication, especially in a post-truth world we are living in now. So that's why I just chose the title of my lecture today as, a kind of a big dilemma, whether you are a journalist or an NGO working or human rights activist or whatever you are doing in your profession. We deal with these things, both in our professional life and also at societal level. When you sometimes you just engage, you are your social relation with a friend of yourself, or with your neighbor, or even within your own family. This kind of fact-checking and misinformation and disinformation issues are all have power to impact all part of our life. That's why it's so important. It's, as much as it is a professional field of study, but also, well, first of all, it's an emotionally engaged social issue for many of us. That's why I just chose, when it comes to fact and science communication in a post-truth world, what should be our world? Are we emotionally engaged storytellers, or should we be just fact warriors for facts? So I will just explain how I will cover this very big topic. So definitely we don't have a lot of time to go too much into details, but in the end of my short lecture, I will also share some recommended literature and some recommended reading list for you. So what I would like to just cover today is, first of all, because while we're talking about, we discuss a lot about this, fact-checking and misinformation issues, but we often just ignore one very basic thing. What is the science behind informing people about facts? And it will be kind of giving an early warning about what I want to cover, and also it's also a little bit spoiler. What I would like to talk is communicating about the facts and fact checking is doomed to fail struggle biologically. So I will just try to discuss this with you, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But let's not just be very pessimistic about that, because just after that, what other ways we can communicate the facts? And there we would be discussing storytelling the facts, and how we people trying to communicate facts should take emotions of people and biological factors which affects our worldviews, and also taking into consideration the power of storytelling. And of course, while I'm presenting this kind of dark picture of fact-checking and counter disinformation, I'll also briefly discuss with you possible solutions to dilemma of very emotional storytelling and fact-checking. And in the end, I'll just give you two examples from my country, Norway. One classic fact-checking initiative, but with some different elements compared to other fact-checking initiative. And also another initiative called My Country Talks. I especially chose those examples because of a special reason you will learn while we're discussing the three topics which I earlier presented, and we will have time your insight, your recommendations, and your questions. Yeah. Now, enough with too much talk at this point. All right, good. I think you see all the screens, but let me just, yeah, you see better, I think, yeah. So what I would like you to is to write, yeah, exactly, you already saw, I already just, before I instruct you what you do, I would like you to write in chat section a topic which divides Bulgarian society ideologically. No problem, very nice. It's very nice. Okay, thank you. Just write all possible topic which divides Bulgarian society. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, I'm reading a lot for everyone. Yeah, Ukrainian refugees, Russian war in Ukraine, support for Ukraine in Russia's war, Macedonian EU integration, NATO membership, LGBTQ issues, position with regard to Northern Macedonia, COVID-19 measures, EU membership, support for Ukraine with weapons. Yeah. Any other topics which comes to your mind? Yeah. Refugees and lots more. Yeah. From what I see, of course, there are more. Yeah, an Istanbul Convention as well. Yeah, about I think women's rights and popular folk music. That's interesting. I would like to hear more about that later. Even ideologically, it's you know, you never guess what divides people. And Bulgarian music is very interesting. Okay. Maybe one of you take unmute your microphone and explain me, please, that Bulgarian music and popular folk music. Can you explain me?
Yeah, sorry, this was really very local. I'm sure the audience will understand my smiley laughing emoji there at the end of that sentence. It's just that there is this traditional folk music called chalga, which has been the big divider, cultural divide in Bulgarian society. So it has to do with education, it has to do with culture, it has to do that younger, well, I shouldn't say younger, maybe more educated people kind of steer clear from that kind of traditional chalga music, right, and more folksy, more middle class groups kind of subscribe to that very traditional and very popular actually music in Bulgaria. But that's been a big divide, and all of those are actually very accurate and recent, but I feel the chalga thing has been like in the last, ever since it came along after the communism, it's been a thing.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. I would never thought that, yeah, but it's very understandable because music has a lot of roots in culture and social issues. But thank you so much for explaining. It's very interesting, and it's even political. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you for sharing. This is very, very interesting, and as I see the topics you have also shared, beside this very peculiar music issue, most of them, and also I see also some more local issues, very unique to Bulgaria probably, but most of them are also common divisive topics in society. But okay, then I think most of you are already just have a clear idea about these things. And now I would like you to know, beside these ones, and I would like to show you some other common misinformation examples, and I would like you to think, you know, how you feel when I am explaining. Maybe some of you already have a clear idea, you already just know the truth, but I would like you to show some information, and I would like you to think how you feel about that. For example, there's a common misconception that humans use only 10% of their brains, and many of us believe that. But in reality, the human brain is quite busy all the days and nights, and using up to 20% of its capacity. And meanwhile, almost every part of the brain is busy, and so it's a myth. Actually, it's not true. It's fake to believe that we are using only 10% of our brains. This is one fact, and I'll show you another one. You know, there's another common myth about Napoleon, and he's often just described as a very, very short person, and there are a lot of rumors around that issue. But in fact, according to the historical figures, he was probably taller than average Frenchman of his time. And according to metric system French measures, he was around 169 meters, which can be regarded as short for today's measures, but he was actually taller than average Frenchman of his time. This is another unnecessary fact, but still, yeah, exactly. So that's a good point. Zdravko just said, because yeah, even just this kind of very neutral disbelief about the height of a person just can go to very, very very ideologically heated debates, like as you just shared, Putin and Lenin are bad because they are short as well. Exactly. So it can take, even the most neutral fact can just take people to unknown dark waters. And another one is another common myth is about drinking, how much water we need a day, and most of us just believe that we should drink at least 8 glasses of water a day. Yeah, that's true. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that shortness issue. We just go back. I at the same time share the comments. Very, very nice. I like it. Comments in the there, and yeah, that shortness issue is often attributed to complex. Yeah. But this, if we just go back to these facts, but actually we don't need to count cups of water we drink every day. Research show people who gulp a glass of water when they are thirsty get enough to stay healthy and hydrated. It's actually our everybody has different needs in terms of amount of glasses of water a day. So it's a myth that we need to drink 8 glasses of water. Okay, if you just leave that complex of that, Napoleon and his shortness, and it's today's reference to being evil related to the complex of being short. When you just read, as I said, maybe some of you already are aware of these myths, but for those who have not heard about that and who just got any information from these facts, when you heard about them, how do you feel? Do you feel like as in A or as in B? So for that, I'll just open a poll here, just a second. Let me just, yeah, there is. Okay, I'll just let you polls. Yeah, here I just open a poll, and if you just, for those who just got any information about one of those facts I have shared, when you learn any information about those myths, how do you feel? Do you feel like as in A or on B? You can answer here. Okay, for those who haven't answered yet, there's still 15 people didn't answer. I give 1 more minute. Okay. I see. Okay. The answers, and most of you actually, except for one participant, just get a very neutral reaction, and you didn't get just very frustrated about learning any information. Okay, let's continue our little experiment, and I'll show you three more information, three new information, but this time I would like you to think a little bit differently. For example, when you are learning, when I'm sharing about this, for example, if you are a person, if you have your own opinion, definitely you can share it. But if you are already just familiar with the case, about the fact I'm sharing, I would like you to think in the shoes of a person who really believes the misinformation. So when I'm reading, for example, this one, you know, if you really just are aware that climate change is not man-made, or you personally can also believe that climate change is not man-made. Okay, many people just believe that, but actually, based on many measurements and research, it shows that the biggest proportion of the impact on climate change is coming from man's activity, the people's activity, especially industrial activities. So this is a common divisive topic, like the ones you have shared. This is one. And another thing, if you are religious people, I know you celebrate Christmas on a different date in Bulgaria, but for many people, 25th of December is kind of a secret, especially for those for religious Christian people. 25th, and even those, for example, in Norway, the Norwegian population is not very religious, but still Christmas and the 25th of December is very culturally sacred day, and we just want to believe that it was the day Jesus was born. But actually, neither from religious texts nor scientific research, Jesus Christ was not born on December 25th. So this is also another misconception, misinformation about a religious thing. So just think, if you don't have any opinion, or if you already know that, also try to think it from a religious person's perspective, and how would you feel about that, to learn about this. And another very common thing, as you have already, okay, you celebrated 21st of, okay, perfect, then my bad, but I was thinking you were also celebrating a little bit later. Okay, yeah, it was Easter, it's true, yeah. And vaccines cause autism. Okay, this is one of the most divisive issues also, and there are some people who believe that vaccines cause autism, but it just comes from a misunderstanding of a little bit yeah, and actually just it comes from a small research which was misunderstood, and many research around the impact of vaccines shows that there is no connection between vaccines and autism. And for those who ideologically believe that vaccines cause autism, I'm sure when you hear about this vaccines and autism information, probably you will have a different opinion. Okay, compared to those three, the tone and the tone of the information has changed a little bit with these three last examples. Now I would like you to vote again. Let me check on the poll. Again, the same thing. I'm asking, how do you feel? How did you feel? How do you feel about these facts this time? These last three facts, like A or B? This is very interesting result. It's almost the right simulation of our societies. Okay, one more minute for those who didn't answer yet. All right. Now I see 13 answers, and I suppose some of you can be your ideas, and some of you can be, in the place of other persons. But it's totally different this time, and it almost simulates the life, simulates the society. And as we see, there was a overwhelming when we hear the facts, the three neutral facts. There was almost an okay approval of that facts, but this time they're more complicated facts, what we are going to discuss, and that's why when we hear this kind of facts, we have different feelings compared to the other ones. Yeah, then you might be asking them, why is it so? So there's so many whys you can ask. Why do we gnash our teeth when, for example, presented with evidence counter to our beliefs? Or why do we easily soften to some ideas, but not to others? Why didn't we have any problem to accept? Or, this is not, I ask you to also just empathize with some people, but But in real life also, when you just ask people, when you just present these two different types of facts, most of the people would easily soften to those three ideas, and they wouldn't mind just accepting that. But when you present those last three facts, many people will just will be triggered and will be threatened. And why would providing more evidence then, even though we provide more evidence, they would still just react and keep their stance about what they believe in, about the issue. There are so it just shows us that not all facts are equal, and there's a reason for that. There is actually, the reason is not psychological, or it's not education related. Of course it is also, but there's actually a good theory explaining how we react to facts. It is called backfire effect. The backfire effect is a cognitive bias that causes people who encounter evidence that challenge their beliefs to reject that evidence and to strengthen their support of their original stance. So let's say that you are a big fan of a certain Bulgarian folk music, and somebody comes and says that this is rubbish. I am a music expert. I'm just saying that. And that person comes and, actually, let's think the other way around. There is one person who hates certain Bulgarian folk music. And there's an expert, a music expert, and comes and explains that actually it is scientifically and from a musical perspective, a very high quality production. And whatever scientific evidence you just provide to that person about that person would still defend his or her position. Probably most of you, when you're discussing with someone about those kind of issues, you probably just have experienced that. Whatever evidence, whatever fact you provide to people, they will still stand, and they will even just actually be even more, and they will say that what they don't know what they are talking about exactly. And exactly, then there will be a point that even that person would believe in what he or she believes stronger. That's what we call it as backfire effect. When you counter argue with someone about a fact, you just make that person believe more to what he or she believes. You cannot change the mind. And as I said, there is a biological reason for that. And it was revealed with, of course, yeah. And there are always kind of, as Darina just says, there are always, with almost everything we disagree, we just come up with those conspiracy theories and try to counter argue with that. And we don't change our minds. And as I said, there is a reason for that. And it was real also with a very interesting neuroscience experiment at University of Southern California. And they just invited some participants, and they were placed into an MRI machine. And the participant had different ideologies about different issues, but these issues were like the examples you shared from Bulgaria, and the second chunks of the information I have shared, ideologically divisive ideas. And once inside, and these people were put in MRI machines to observe the activities on their brains when they are presented with counter arguments to strongly held political beliefs. All right, sorry. Right. Sorry, that's okay. And these information were like a few examples was about a popular topic these days in the United States, gun ownership issue. It should be made more restrictive or not, or gay marriage should be legalized or shouldn't be legalized. You know, depending on the people's beliefs, they were presented some counter arguments, and as participants were read these counter arguments, various parts of the brains were scanned for activity. And what the study revealed is actually very frightening, but also very eye-opening about communicating about facts and counter-arguing or arguing with people about reality or the facts. Because when people are presented some counter-arguments to their strongly held political beliefs, a certain part of the brain was activated, which is also activated when you attack person physically. It is called amygdala, and it is basically the emotional core of your mind. So actually, counter-arguing someone against that person's political belief or ideological belief is equal to attack that person with a knife or with a gun. So our brain responds in the same way to new information which threatens our ideological beliefs, and also our brain responds in the same way when we are attacked with a knife or with a gun. So from an evolutionary standpoint, yeah, it's this is the kind of eye-opening scientific finding about how difficult it is, how biologically wired we are when it comes to changing our beliefs, because you basically threaten that person when you counter-argue. So these core beliefs, as I said, not all beliefs, especially those ideologically established ones. And this can be a religion, this can be a political ideology, it can be a political standpoint about, let's say, refugees or Ukrainian refugees, or the nationalism or religion. And these core beliefs are the beliefs which people cherish most deeply, because they usually develop from early childhood, or with interaction with the society or with the people we cherish, and they are often very inflexible, rigid, and also very sensitive to being challenged. So it is like so when you are presented new information which is not exactly in the shape, in the frame of your beliefs, then you will believe that your core foundation of your whole belief and worldview would be collapsed, and that's why our brain immediately just puts itself in a defensive status and just put some fences, just to visualize it. I'm just explaining with a simple language that way. But this is how biologically our brain responds to new information, new ideology. So this is how backfire effect works. So after this very dark, very dark presentation of how our brains and how actually counter arguing is biologically doomed to fail, you might ask, then what are you saying? So what? As both this recent study shows and also many other studies repeatedly have shown, it is biologically impossible to correct someone's misinformation or actually a distorted belief or ideology. So what does it mean? Should we just give up on trying to correcting fake news? Does it mean that, or does it mean that we should just give up and everybody should live in their own bubbles as today? No, it doesn't mean that. But why I share this scientific base of counter-arguing and fact-checking, pure rational fact-checking is not actually possible to change anyone's mind. Just to understand that correcting fake news is definitely necessary, but it's not sufficient to get a divided society to rethink itself. When it comes to that, because as I said, while we're talking about that specific part of the brain, it is, it's responsible for our emotions, and those emotions govern what how we feel about the person we communicate, and also how whether we should just accept that new information. So when it comes to emotions, one thing is quite there's no more efficient way than storytelling. Storytelling is the way how we address the emotional part of our brains. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to cover, the power of the power of storytelling. But there are so many studies, again, neuroscience studies showing that good stories are the only communication way to reach and to address people's emotions and to engage them. Yes, I just also at the same time now reading comments. Maybe we should present facts in an equally emotional way. Would you like to elaborate what you mean? You can unmute your microphone, Zdravko.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, hello.
Well, if people who don't believe these facts react emotionally and they sometimes feel offended, and they get aggressive and so on, maybe when presenting the real facts, we should also be equally emotional in order to make them be more empathic in a way.
Exactly, Drago. That's a very good point. Actually, that's what this part is exactly the issue which I will address. Yeah, that's very key point. What you're saying, equally emotional way. Yeah, because when we just look at many counter argument, many fact checking initiatives and effort, they're purely rational and they are not emotional, but we are human beings are very emotional creatures, and that's why what you're saying is so important. Yeah, we should just present the facts in an equal emotional way, and storytelling is the way how we can tell the facts in an emotional way. But as I said, we don't have all the time to, to present all those technique of storytelling, how emotionally engage people to share information. But I can share you some resources we have created. Then you can have a look, to tell those stories. And another thing, it's also related to what you said. It's because as we have seen in that experiment, we are not so smart, because one of the biggest mistake of the fact-checking initiatives is we assume that human beings, especially educated ones, are rational, and when we present them rational facts and information, we can change, we can fix the misinformation. But no, we are not. We are not smart. We are emotional, and emotions govern most of our decisions, and that just makes storytelling so important. So some of you might be critical of what I'm saying about, and there are also many people who are working with, fact checking and also scientific communication. They might be critical of this idea of presenting the facts in the story format to emotionally engage people. But it doesn't mean that we will just leave the facts, but there are certain principles to follow while we're communicating these things. First of all, when we use stories, they're just a lead to be able to create an emotional connection with the people, to make them be more open-minded to what we're gonna say as facts. Stories lead, and facts should follow after creating a connection with our audience. Yes, storytelling is kind of a very key thing which can be used both, in many formats, in your communication strategy to classrooms and method of teaching. For those who just would like to learn more, as I said, I will share some more resources, and I'm sure among you also you have some experience, and you can also share in the question and answer section. And also you can share with us any links or any resources you would like to share with the rest of the group. Yeah, the key thing there here, as I said, the stories should lead and facts should follow. But there's one difference, usually stories just are shaped around individual examples, and when we tell stories, we tell one person's story or a group's story. They're not like science and facts. Facts are based on patterns of information or a lot of information, but it doesn't mean that we can they're mismatch. They can be very good match. Actually, you can just choose one of the factual information which are based on scientific research, and you can take one sample and tell it in a story format, create that connection with your audience, then support it with some facts. I will again show you some good examples of practice of this later on. And there is also this one, as I said, there are critique of this one. When in my workshops, in storytelling workshops, I had with many different groups of people, from NGO people to journalists to scientists, there is often some critique of that storytelling, because we just think storytelling is just only fiction and not real thing. But actually, most of our communication in daily life is also storytelling, gossips. We just tell what happened there and just tell. And that's why storytelling is a very natural way of communicating. And of course, there's a conflict. If there's a conflict between fact and narrative or storytelling always wins. You just look at what happens on social media. What kind of information people share most or believe most when they just read. Okay, instead of just reading scientific research, people just tend to believe, for let's say, the impact of the vaccines based on a friend's history, a friend's story about the vaccination, or similar. I'm sure you have also experienced similar things. When you just hear a story, it's easier to absorb and believe than just reading just some numbers and some facts about that. Yeah. So that shows that when we just think of arguing or trying to just address misinformation, we have to just think first, find a good story to make that connection. And also another thing, just because we are talking about emotions here, storytelling just creates that emotion, but emotions have also kind of an evolutionary purpose. They are designed to elicit action in people. So that action can be just to change their belief or to inform them or to take an action about a certain belief. And the good news is that organizations fighting for social change can use stories to harness emotions. Again, or as individuals, if you would like to create a change, definitely, to address those emotions people have is quite important. But also there is at the same time a risk, both in storytelling and the kind of emotions we try to create to be able to have an impact. There are sometimes certain emotions are overused, because people are exposed to so many information, so many stories every day, and when they are and a certain type of emotions are triggered when they are exposed to certain type of stories, and the bad news is too much these kind of emotions like fear, sadness, and guilt may not end up as we just hope. Because when we just, for example, look at the kind of stories we hear from news articles on TV or on social media, of course, there's so many inspiring stories, but most of the time, let's think about, for example, climate change related stories. Most of them are very dark, and most of them are just guilt creating, and they are communicating that just to make people fear or to make people feel guilty. The problem with this kind of problem creating stories or just guilt creating or fear mongering emotional stories is most people already have enough of them. And focusing on the enormity of an issue, like, let's say, the climate change or a conflict like Ukraine, Russia, and the social dimension of the health issues or the COVID issue, then people can feel overwhelmed when we just make them exposed to too much emotions like fear and too much use emotions. There's a very nice study about the impact of emotions on people, and there is also this interesting visual map showing what kind of content, what kind of stories create what kind of emotions in people. I can share it later on, also the link, then you can experiment with that. And of course, as I said, when we are, as we said from the very beginning, we said that to be able to create, to be able to argue or to be able to counter argue against the misinformation, disinformation about issues, we have to connect, we have to take into consideration the emotion factor. And to be able to emotionally engage, we said we need good stories and inside those emotions in people. But at the same time, we have to be careful with the emotions. And we should be very careful with what kind of emotions we create with our stories. So these are three key points where we should pay attention while we are storytelling the facts. And then after that, after just being successful with this emotion creation, then our other facts follows that. Okay. And yeah, so far we have discussed these examples. We have discussed how it is impossible to change people's minds, and and what we can do. I think we are just clear about this. So far, I think, is there any question or any unclear point? I just take this silence as there's no problem. Yeah. As you have seen, I just skipped some slides, but we will share the slides later on with you. And there are also some other follow-up suggestions about how to communicate the facts, and there are a few more topics points there, and you can have a look at it also later on. So far we just talk at a very theoretical level, so now I would like to continue with, as I promised, some initiatives from Norway in the frame of this psychological and biological process of backfire effect and argumentations around facts. And I will present two different initiatives, having adopted two very, very diverse approach. One of them is a classic fact-checking initiative, which is called Faktisk, bringing many actors in Norway together. But yeah, as I said, this is a classical fact-checking initiative in Norway, but it has some unique factors around the topics we have discussed, because this is a cooperation between all media competitors. Because when you just look at many fact-checking initiatives in other countries, they're usually like either initiated by just one certain media company, or a social initiative which was started against the media. But this is a collaboration between all kind of media organizations in Norway, from very right wing to left wing, and from very tabloid newspapers to very serious newspapers. And they just come together. They came together some years ago, and they have started this fact-checking initiative. And yeah, here is the key point. As I said, this is not a classic, not your fact versus my fact fact-checking initiative. And it is used by news organizations ranging from local newspapers to national broadcasters, and even far-right blogs, then the radical left-wing blogs and publications and popular influencers share on their sites the fact-checking boxes, fact-checking information, which is provided by FactDesk. And then how it, just maybe it sounds like very counter, it's kind of a counter argument to what I said all the way, by saying that, when you just create purely counter argument in fact checking, rational counter argument in fact checking, you cannot manage, because it's an emotional process, what we believe and what we don't believe, than rational facts. But another way to approach it is to bring to make different ideological segments of society together and just make them feel included and also being heard is also a way, and it somehow also makes them just empowered in the system of fact checking, and they don't feel they are the fact checking thing is against them. So this just makes this initiative very, very peculiar. But of course, it doesn't mean that it solves all problems in Norway, because there are still people who just are very go after conspiracy theories and very, very divisive ideas, like in your country or in most of the rest of the world. Then we just come to another interesting initiative, which is original from Germany. It's called My Country Talks. Is there anyone who heard about this? No. My Country Talks, as I said, is a Germany origin initiative, and they explain their aim as to help societies around the world to connect over the issues that divide them. And how do they do that? This is a very big promise, just to bring the world, connect the people about the issues that divide them. Instead of classic fact checking and correcting people's failures, they decide to bring two sides of the arguments together and let them speak. It was started by the German site online, and it spread in 2017, and it spread all over the world after that. And they just described it as a dating platform for political opposites, kind of the funny way they described it, a tool that could help people together with different opinions. And how does it work? They basically have a very simple form about certain issues, like what do you think about let's say Ukrainian refugees, or what do you think about the Russians' invasion of Ukraine, or they just ask those very sensitive and divisive topics to people, and according to their answers, they match the opposite answers together, and a quick and dirty algorithm that would find the perfect kind of Tinder matches, like people living as close as possible, but having very different opinion about the same issue. So it's the basic idea, just to bringing those two opposite ideas together. And this German initiative was also taken by a group of Norwegian media outlets, one of the national broadcaster NRK, and some also two other, and one financial newspapers and two other weekly newspapers. and they have initiated in 2019, and they basically, like many other country talks events, they ask to recruit people to bring together. They ask some basic questions related to Norwegian issues, such as the use of oil or the length of working days. And from the last one, for example, there were topics like, should Norway stop exploring for oil and natural gas fields? This is a big topic still today. Is Norway's elite too out of touch with most people, or is Norwegian society threatened by immigration from Muslim countries, or has it become too expensive to drive in Norway, or have gender equality measures come, or LGBTQ issues, and those kind of very divisive topics also in Norway are asked people, and according to their answer, they are matched automatically, and they are invited to a neutral place like a cafeteria or an event venue. They just sit together, have a coffee together, and and with certain rules, they share what they believe on that topic, and they just talk. And they just talk and leave, and if they want, they continue. And there's so many positive impact in that sense. Instead of trying to convince another person how fail they with their ideas or ideology about a certain issue, instead they just open a platform which they can discuss. And it is also based on a scientific data saying that when people of different opinions, different ideologies come together and talk, it is easier for them to emotionally connect and being more open-minded, because it's also about emotions involved, because there's so many emotions involved when you are talking to people face to face, and versus talking that person remotely without knowing the person. So this is my country talk, and another very very unique approach to disinformation, misinformation, and very indirect way to tackle with those issues. Yeah, I think I have talked enough. Now for the last 15 minutes, we can just have your questions or feedbacks. And if you don't have specific questions, I have also some specific questions. First of all, we can start with some questions to think, brainstorm. For example, from the initiatives we have discussed, which all of them can be applied in Bulgaria, you think? That can be one thing you can answer. And another thing is, what is the best strategy, among all things we have discussed for fact communication from your own experience, and also from the information we have presented? And any other question is also, you're welcome to share and raise here. Yeah, I thank you from my side in terms of presentation part, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your opinions and questions. Yeah.
Well, maybe I can start.
Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Vedat. This was really interesting. My takeaway, I'm a broadcast journalist, and it feels like we broadcast people have been doing that same strategy. It's kind of engraved in our DNA, because that's what we do. We tell human stories, and we start from a small story, from something that is very specific, very tangible, a story of a person or a household or something very small, and then we draw the big picture, and then actually the strategy we've been preached at least or utilized is going back to the small story so that you can stamp that human personal experience, that emotional connection. So it feels like it is kind of more typical for broadcast media, I feel like, although print media and online media, they do have visuals to kind of convey that same emotional appeal. But this is very interesting to see the scientific back end of this thing that's been for me personally. You've been preaching to the choir, you know, that's something that I truly believe, that people are emotional. You know, there is a great quote that I can just share with you. Not a question, it's just something that you made me think about. Brené Brown, the popular researcher, psychologist, she studies human emotions, and she has this very interesting series on HBO Max, I think, called The Atlas of the Heart, when she kind of teaches people to put emotions into language and to help them kind of distinguish between different types of emotions. And she says the biggest mistake we do when thinking about ourselves, humans, is to believe that we are thinking creatures. She said that's wrong. We are, that's what she says, we are emotional creatures that on occasion think.
That's a very good point. Yes,
that's exactly a very good quote that kind of ties together for me the whole presentation that you've made. And I don't have a very specific question. I just wanted to say that you did a great job, and it was extremely interesting for me to.
Thank you so much, Darina. What you shared, your insight is very, very valuable as well. Thank you. It was specifically the quote you just shared also somehow summarizes what we have discussed very much. But also one comment about what you said. You know, broadcast media. You're right. Actually, you have for a very long time, from the very beginning, you know, the human stories are promoted there. But one thing I think here is what we also just discussed recently. I don't know whether you heard about solutions journalism thing. You know, most of the time when we just in media and in broadcast media, when we present those things, the pure aim is often either entertain or to they don't usually just have a quite social cause in it. So that's you know, I think the key is there, you know, when we have a very clear aim why we are telling those stories, is that then that time those stories can make a difference there.
Yeah, and I actually, that's exactly the note I made when you were talking about being careful with emotions and not to overwhelm audiences, because what we have been receiving for years and years is like, news is too negative. I don't want to watch this. It makes me depressed. It makes me, you know, there's nothing I can do about it. I just don't want to know. And solution journalism is exactly, you know, putting something purposefully to kind of towards gearing the coverage towards solving an issue. But that's, and I was thinking that's maybe a question based on your research. You made me think about fact checking, and maybe we're doing it all wrong because we are trying to combat emotions with facts. And maybe, and all of those pure fact checking organizations, what they do is they provide a whole list of rational argumentation as to whether what you've engaged with is, you know, clear, be bullshit. Sorry about my
exactly. No.
But maybe there is a way, maybe there is a need to think about it in a different way. Maybe we need to embed a human story, not just offer the facts, but say, here is an example of somebody who believed that and how it affects. Like, I'm just thinking out loud, but maybe that calls for a whole rethinking of the fact-checking process. Because we need to be, you know, we need to be combating emotions with more than just, you know, data, like factual data. And that's why people, that's the other thing I was thinking, that's why people never read report and Excel sheets. All the facts are there. Nobody wants to know that. They want storytelling kind of. repackaged all of the facts into a story. And maybe that's something that it never occurred to me as to, well, maybe fact checkers need to change their approach to things.
I totally agree there, but I'm not so brave with the words as you are. So I totally agree with you. That's from the very beginning. I'm very critical of classic fact checking methodology. So it's I think that there's time actually to change and to revise at least the strategy, how we just make the fact checking, because it's often just pleasing the opponents already. Now it's not for changing the mind of or just heart of the people, but it's only just pleasing those who are already supporters there. So we should just definitely we are on the same side when it comes to the idea that there's a need to change the strategy there.
Absolutely. And thanks again. I'm just going to leave everybody. I don't want to the whole time. Just a question. Would you be sharing your contact information with us? I feel like I would like to maybe at some point continue this conversation with you. If you don't.
Sure, definitely. I shared here, but I'll also share this slideshow later on. Here. Thank you. All right. Thank you again for your contribution. And I see there are some comments. Some are in Bulgarian, so I need, wait a second. We can start with that one. Wait a second, I need translation for that. Let me see first. Wait a second. Yeah, interpretation. Yeah, English. Could you please help me with this Bulgarian question? The first one from after that, storytelling is also a method of teaching in the classroom. I don't know, I would say it's a comment. Yeah, I think it's from Goriana. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's Rihanna, it's very, very, very good point. And also very interesting point, because when I share these ideas, giving examples from Germany or Norway, while we are thinking, which one can be also applied in Bulgaria, we have to think the local realities. I think I had also a similar experience with while I was working in the context of Romania. And I had also similar feedback about people, just the trust of people to share with another. I think it just comes from a little bit about the political history, recent political history. But what you said is very valuable. I think we can add it also in takeaway of today. Thank you. Right. Let me check. Okay, then the next one, or we just need to educate in media literacy for them to understand media biases and their own cognitive biases, so they have control over it. Yeah, that's also illegal. It's it's one of the strategies actually, true. Instead of saying that, human beings are not smart, we cannot educate them, so they're just emotional, so we cannot do anything about that. Definitely we cannot say that, but what you said is I think the long-term strategy to work on with the media literacy. But there's so many challenges about building that media competences, media literacy competences, and also the competences to tackle with our own cognitive biases. As I said, it's in the first place, it's a biological thing. So it's not very easy work, but definitely it's one of the strategies we have to also include in our repertoire to meet to tackle, to address this issue. Let me change original. Okay, and also Zdravko just made a comment. Storytelling is strongly connected to voting. People tend to vote for those who have emotional stories to tell, even the stories are fake, like Donald Trump. Exactly. Same in Bulgaria, they vote for chalga, folk musicians, not for good politicians. It's also another great example. Exactly, Zdravko. And exactly. So we just want to hear stories most of the time, and we are just impressed with the stories, not the facts. We don't, when somebody just tells us and just gives the numbers of how great tomorrow will be based on numbers, we'll not hear that. But even if we just somebody just comes and tells some fairy tales about tomorrow's how great it will be, even if they are lies and this over exaggeration, we still would like to hear those stories, and we will follow those people. And that's a good example as well. Thank you for sharing as well. Just not to discriminate any target group. Exactly. Yes, long term but sustainable. And we repeat and postpone it for years, decades, because it's a long term catch-22 while arguing about definitions and how to integrate ML in education. Definitely, we are in the same. We're on the same boat, Iglika. We definitely believe that, please don't misunderstand me when I say it's a more long-term goal. I am not saying that we shouldn't do that, because it's a multi-level effort. So this is in the end ultimate goal, to prepare the generations for that cognitive competence and cognitive cognitive level that they can understand, they are free from manipulation and misinformation and disinformation. But at the same time, there will be anyway emotion factors, and we have to also take it into consideration and just have this multi-perspective, multi-level strategy. Exactly. Yes. We just need both. Exactly. Wonderful. Any other questions, feedbacks? I really enjoyed, actually. I'm very, very just thankful for all those insights and good feedbacks. They're so valuable, and you just put in words better many things I try to cover here. So I'm really happy about that. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, media literacy. Yeah, exactly, sir. Yes. Right. Any other questions, or is there anyone? We have 1 more minute. If you would like to share something. And as I said, here are my contact information. If you have anything to share, either with me or with the rest of the group, you can write to me or on Marina. Okay, and we have here one Bulgarian text. Yeah, I will need also help. Just a second. Interpretation. Okay. Yes, okay. I can hear now, yes. Mm-hmm. Right. That's a wonderful question, I have to say. That's very, very to the point, but it's at the same time a very big question to discuss. When it comes to neutrality of the storyteller, one thing I just shared while I was talking, I think is key there to just ensure that neutrality. You know, especially when it comes to fact storytelling. Fact storytelling. This is the term I use often. You know, a story backed up with the facts should be followed by the facts. So when you are telling a story, you cannot just leave it there, but the facts should follow it. So this is kind of a checking mechanism to keep neutrality, and but there's no point just but there's no problem to put your emotions in it, as long as you stick to the facts, and that fact just supports your story. I think that's the key thing, because what we said is tell your story, your story should lead to facts in the end. That's kind of the security, or the quality check for the storytellers. Yeah, and that storytelling from fourth person term is quite interesting, and then it's a bigger discussion. But what I would love to, I can also share something about that later on. But just checking time, we are running out of time. But but thank you very much. It's a very, very interesting and good question as well. Yeah. Yeah, emotional neutral. I think, to be frank, yeah, just one thing I can add is, like we said about people and being smart and rational. Because one thing I said is to be able to be a good to be able to be good at fact checking or changing the narrative when it comes to disinformation, misinformation. We have to first start accepting that humans are not rational, and also as Darina just shared with the quote, we are mostly emotional and very rarely just rational creatures, and also neutrality about our neutrality about storytelling is also the same thing. Yeah, we have to accept that ensuring 100% neutrality is a myth. It's very difficult to have, but only we can just ensure it just with basing our stories and backing our story with the facts at the same time. Yeah. Thank you for this very good question, actually. From here, I would like to thank you for your contribution and your passions. It was very enjoyable, and especially I liked very much how you put the things at a different level with your very insightful comments and questions, and made it more clear and meaningful for everyone. Thank you so much. And as I said, you can always reach me, and we can continue our discussion, and also you can share your thoughts, and we can share with the group. I thank you as well.
Аз само две думи. Много ти благодарим, Ведат, за споделените размисли. Още повече искам да внеса един детайл и да благодаря на всичките ни участници, част от които са журналисти, защото в момента в страната тече много сериозна така политическа криза. Имаше 3 извънредни пресконференции по време на този разговор и въпреки това...
Беше много трудно, Мария, да следим двете пресконференции и разговора.
Мисля, че и трета се появи в някакъв момент. Аз също леко изгубих.
Ме загуби. Сега вече ме загуби. Отивам.
Връзката, но наистина благодарим ви за това, че се включихте, че останахте, въпреки така популярната дума безпрецедентната ситуация напоследък. Имате контактите на Ведат. Ние ще продължим и с тези срещи. Предстоят и такива в София между журналисти и учени, така че много ще се радваме да бъдете с нас. Stay tuned, както се казва на чист български. Приятна вечер на всички. Ведат, thank you very much once again. It's a pleasure to listen to you and to communicate.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and have a very nice evening to all of you. Thank you.